I'm 52 now, and for most of my adult life, I played it safe. Perhaps too safe. I was the kind of woman who followed the rules, who kept things neat and orderly. I got married young, had children early, and dedicated myself to creating a stable, reliable life. I believed for years that love meant security, that if everything appeared calm and structured on the outside, then surely that must be happiness. I smiled when I was supposed to, spoke gently, and tucked away every little wild part of myself in the name of being a good wife, a good mother, a good woman. But I realize now that stability isn't the same as joy. It isn't passion. And what happened one weekend in June taught me more about myself than the last 3 decades combined. That particular Friday afternoon, the summer sun was high and heavy, and the air buzzed with a heat that made everything feel thick and slow, like honey on the skin. I had just finished watering my flower beds, sweat clinging to my temples, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. The message was from Rachel, my best friend, since we were 20-year-old college roommates. Her text was short but urgent. "Hey, can Ethan stay the weekend with you? My dad's been hospitalized, and I need to drive down to Tallahassee." Ethan, her boy, 17, going on 18. My mind conjured an image of the shy kid I remembered, all knees and elbows, hiding behind his mother's legs at barbecues, his voice soft and eyes curious. But he wasn't that kid anymore, not the last time I saw him. He was taller now, broader in the shoulders, his voice had dropped an octave, and his eyes carried a weight that made him seem older than his years. Of course I said yes. Rachel had been there for me through thick and thin. Taking her son in for the weekend was the least I could do. When Ethan arrived, it was just past 5 p.m. He stood in my doorway with a worn duffel bag slung over one shoulder, wearing a sheepish smile and a pair of sneakers too big for his feet. "For letting me stay, Miss Garrett," he said. I laughed and shook my head, brushing my hands on my jeans. "You're not 12 anymore, Ethan. Call me Diane." He grinned, and I noticed, maybe for the first time, that his eyes lingered on mine just a second longer than necessary. I brushed it off. Just a polite boy being polite. That was all. We eased into a casual rhythm almost immediately. I made spaghetti for dinner, which, as luck would have it, was his favorite. We sat on the couch later, watching some high-octane action movie that I couldn't make sense of, but Ethan leaned in the entire time, completely absorbed. Our conversation that evening was light. He told me a bit about school, how he was undecided about college, maybe trade school, maybe he'd move out to Colorado to work with his uncle. I was struck by how calm he seemed about it all. He wasn't floundering like I expected most teenage boys to be. There was a stillness to him, a quiet thoughtfulness that I didn't associate with people his age. Later that night, I brought him a stack of towels and found him outside on the back deck. Fireflies floated above the tall grass, and the cicadas were humming a low chorus in the heat. He sat with his legs stretched out in front of him, head tilted back. "You okay?" I asked softly. He nodded, then paused. Sometimes I wish time could just stop, like this, just hold still. You ever feel like that? Something in the way he said it cracked something open in me. I looked at him, the moonlight carving gentle shadows across his jaw. I swallowed. "Yeah," I replied, "more often than you'd think." He looked at me then, really looked. For a moment, it felt like something deep and unspoken passed between us. Then he smiled and wished me good night. I stood out there long after he went inside, alone under the stars, clutching that strange flicker of warmth blooming in my chest. It wasn't romantic, I told myself. It was nostalgia, sentimentality, and all the wild possibilities I thought I'd tucked away forever. The next morning, I made pancakes. Ethan helped me haul old boxes out of the garage without being asked. We played music while we worked. Fleetwood Mac mostly, a band from my time, not his. But he sang along, surprising me. "Your taste is better than I expected," I teased. He chuckled. "That's because my mom raised me right, and she listens to all your playlists." Later, I suggested we swim. The pool in the backyard had been untouched for ages, but the idea of slipping into cool water under the sun suddenly seemed perfect. I hesitated as I changed into a one-piece suit I hadn't worn in years. It hugged places I had learned to avoid mirrors for. When I stepped out, he was already in the water, eyes closed, floating peacefully. "Come in," he called, not opening his eyes. The water was sun-warmed. We swam lazily, splashing each other like kids. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You don't smile." "Of course I do," I blinked. "No, you pretend to, but when it's real, it lights up your face." That stayed with me. The way he said it, like he'd been studying me and actually saw me, not as a friend of his mom, not as an older woman with a routine life, but as someone who was still here, still capable of being noticed. That night, I tossed in bed. I kept hearing his voice in my head, feeling his gaze linger. I tried to bury it, chalk it up to hormones, loneliness, anything logical. But in the kitchen the next morning, when he came down with sleep in his eyes and that gentle smile, my heart stuttered. We cooked together, eggs and toast, simple things, but the brush of his fingers against mine as I handed him a plate made me catch my breath. "You always seem so calm," he said. "Is that code for boring?" "No," he said sincerely. "It's nice. You make the house feel safe." I almost cried. After years of holding everything together, someone noticed. Someone felt saw. Wasn't boring. That was powerful. We didn't plan anything big that day. Just small things. Laundry, reading on the porch, grocery shopping. But the tension between us had changed. It hummed now, soft but present, like an undercurrent we couldn't escape. When a summer storm rolled in that afternoon, we found ourselves back on the couch, thumbing through an old photo album. The rain whispered against the windows. "That's my daughter when she was 6, I said, pointing at a muddy little girl. "She looks like you," he said. I smiled, but my throat tightened. "She's braver than I ever was." He turned to me. "You don't give yourself enough credit." We were closer now. His hand touched mine, barely. Just a gesture. But it said everything. "You don't have to be afraid with me," he said quietly. I pulled away eventually. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. I told myself I was being silly, that he was just a kind kid, and I was just lonely, but I could still feel his touch. That night I didn't sleep. The memory of his voice, the stillness in his eyes, the way we sat together in silence, it all haunted me. He came downstairs after midnight. I didn't turn to look, but I knew it was him. "I couldn't sleep," he said. Neither could I. He sat beside me. "I don't want to pretend this didn't happen," he said. "Even if it was just moments. Even if we didn't touch." "We didn't," I said. "We did. You felt it too." I couldn't deny it, so I didn't. He held my hand again, and I let him. It wasn't about crossing lines. It was about being seen, being held in the presence of another soul who understood. When morning came, it was clear and cool. He hugged me goodbye. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me." I watched him walk to his mother's car, a knot in my chest. I wasn't sad. I wasn't guilty. I was awake. Later that afternoon, I sat alone on the back deck, tea in hand, sun on my face. Maybe nothing would come of it. Maybe it was just a weekend, just a flicker. But maybe, just maybe, that flicker was the start of something I hadn't let myself believe in for a very long time. Sometimes the most unexpected visitors remind you you're still alive, still worthy, still full of light, still seen.